In today's video, I'm showing you 4 very simple and very beautiful makeovers that are perfect for your fall decor. So make sure that you stay tuned so that you can see how each project turned out. I think you're gonna love them. Project. This is actually a frame that I got from Goodwill, and the price on it was $1.99, but the red stickers were half off. So I only paid $1 for this, and it's a really cute frame, perfect for fall, but I just don't like the colors. So I think I'm gonna make this a neutral palette, but I'm also going to have a pop of color with this little transfer from I can't remember which set this comes from. I'll have the link listed in the description box, but I think this little transfer is going to fit perfectly in the frame, and it just has just the right pop of color. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the price tag off, clean it up, and then I'm going to start painting. All right, so I am going to take this out. I'm gonna save this little piece because I am gonna use this for the transfer. And for the paint, I'm gonna use a Waverly chalk paint in the color Ivory. I do wanna take a minute to say welcome to all my friends that are coming back to my channel to check out this video. And if you're new, I would like to say welcome. I'm Melissa, and I hope you enjoy this little fall thrift flip video. I do a lot of these little thrift flip videos, so if that's something you like, then I would love it if you would be a part of my YouTube family. I did give the frame 2 coats of that chalk paint. Now that this is dry on both sides, I'm going to come in with this acrylic sealer in the matte finish, and I'll probably just give it 1 coat because it does cover pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and get this sprayed. Now that this sealer has dried, I'm going to go ahead and go over the top of this with the Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm just going to go over it fully. And that sealer is going to keep the color from changing too much. I just want to make sure I get down in those details because the details of this frame are so pretty. And then I'll start wiping it back, and look how pretty that looks. Isn't that so pretty? And then if I want it even whiter, I can go in with the clear wax and go over it and wipe it back some more. But I think I like the way that looks. So I'm just gonna keep doing this around the whole frame. You'll have to let me know in the comments if you like to decorate with traditional colors or if you tend to go more neutral. For the little frame, for inside the frame, I'm using the piece of cardboard that came in it, but I want to give it a coat of the same Ivory chalk paint. And then I'm gonna let it dry before I put the transfer on there. And I'm not gonna worry if the coverage is not completely 100%, mainly because I'm gonna go over it with an antique wax, like around the edges, just to kind of give it a little bit of a aged look. So now I just need to make sure this dries without curling up. Now that the paint's dry, I have my transfer cut. And if you've never used a transfer before, it's so simple. You just place your transfer where you want it on your project. So let me get this centered as much as possible. All right, and then I like to rub it on there with my fingers first, just to kind of get it set in place. And then you just start rubbing it with the stick that's included in the set. And once you start rubbing it in, you can start lifting up the vellum, the plastic piece on top. Sometimes it's a little harder than other times, but this one seems to be working pretty easy. And you just lift up the plastic, and then you go over it with that same plastic piece. I'm going to turn it over. And you just rub it just to kind of make sure it's all laid down and set into the piece. And that is it. It's that simple. Now I do want to take the residue of whatever's left on my brush and just kind of go over the edges of the paper. Just so it's not too stark. And that's it. So now I'm just gonna get this put back together. Now I want you to be honest with me and tell me what you think. After I got it all put together and set it up and took pictures, I decided I didn't know if I was quite happy with the way it looked, so I added more of the antique wax, and then I really wasn't sure. So I actually changed it up a bit, and you'll see it at the end. So tell me which one is your favorite. For this fall project, I am going to use one of these wood tags from Dollar Tree, and I like to use the antique wax on this side because it makes it look like a stained wood. So I'm going to cover this side with, I'm going to decoupage this paper, and this comes from, it's actually the vintage Christmas pad, craft paper pad from Hobby Lobby, and I paid 40 or 50% off of the $6.99. I can't remember, but even though it's Christmas, I do love this color, and I think it's going to look really good with what I'm going to do after that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this twine that's holding these wood beads, and I'm going to try to cut it. There we go. Okay, so I'm not sure. I'll probably end up taking some of these off. I'm not positive yet. So anyway, I'm going to keep this to the side. Next, I'm going to put a good layer of Mod Podge on the wood piece. I want to make sure I get along the edges really well. Then I'm just going to place the paper where I want it. Make sure I don't want the, let's see. Try to make sure it's as straight as possible on this. Okay. And then I'm going to use my little brayer that I got from Amazon just to make sure that's on there real good. And then I'm going to let it dry. And then we will move on. Now, once the little wood tag is done, I am going to use this mold that I got. I used it from a Redesign with Prima mold, and I just did a bunch at one time, so I don't have a video of it, but I will put a link to that mold in the description box. But for now, I am gonna paint this because I want to keep the piece sort of neutral. So I'm not gonna use an orange, so I'm gonna use the Waverly chalk paint in ivory, and I'm gonna paint this pumpkin this creamy ivory color. And then once the paint is dry, I'm gonna go over it with, I'm gonna paint the stem brown, but once all of the paint is dry, I'm gonna go over it with an antique wax. Now that the glue is dried, I'm just gonna cut around the edges, but I'm gonna finish it off with my little finger sander just to give it a more finished look and not a cut look. Because I'm not cutting neat, because I knew I was gonna go in with the finger sander. So now let me get that done. I forgot to video me painting the stem, but I just painted it brown. Now I'm going over it with a clear wax, and then I'm going to use the antique wax to go over that. And then I'm going to wipe away the excess and just kind of play around with the look of it until I get it the way I want it. Now I'm gonna take this little dauber and just get around the edges. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but I do also want it to kind of be a little around this edge. Put some of this antique wax on the back. And this antique wax that I'm using in this little bottle is a little thinner than how it normally comes. And that's because I was running out. So I just put a little bit of water in the bottle and shook it up. So this is a little thinner than how it normally is. So whenever you have little bottles that you're running out of, keep them, because then you can use them for these purposes. When you need paints just a little thinned out. So now I'm just gonna go over it with a shop towel to get off the excess. And I really love the finish of that. Isn't that pretty? All right, so now we're gonna add the pumpkin to the front. Now before I put the pumpkin, now that I've got it painted, before I put the pumpkin on top, I need to go back over the paper with a coat of Mod Podge just to make sure that paper is sealed in nice and good. And then I'm gonna let that dry. And when that's done, then I can add the pumpkin. Actually, I don't really have to wait until it's dry because I'm adding glue anyway. So I'm putting some wood glue on the back of the pumpkin, making sure to get along the edges, along that stem. Once I got all the glue in place, I just put it on the front of the tag, the wood tag, and I did use a little bit of tape just to go over the top, especially in the stem area, just to make sure it lays flat on the wood tag while it dries. Then I did go ahead and reattach the beads. I took a few off and I reattached them without that big long part at the end, and I'm just going over this with the antique wax and getting it the color kind of that I want it. And by the time that dries, the wood glue will be dry and this project will be done. I think this turned out so pretty. I just love this look, and I just think it looks so cottagey and cozy. Tell me what you think. This is a picture that I thrifted. I think I paid $3 for it, and I love the shape of it, and I think the detail at the top just really has a fall look to it. I like the color of it, so I'm gonna sort of play on that by using a plaster color. It's the Waverly chalk paint in plaster, and I'm gonna paint over it, and it's honestly pretty much the same color as the original vase, but I just didn't like the shininess of it, so that's kind of why I wanted to paint it. But I give this 2 good coats of the Waverly chalk paint, and this definitely mutes down that shiny look. I'm not doing a whole lot to this to make it look too terribly different, just making it look a little bit aged and a little older. Now, I have sprayed this with the matte sealer, but I just want to ensure that it stays nice like that. So I am going to cover it with a coat of the Waverly varnish in matte. Then I'm going to go over it with an antique wax. So I want to get a really good coverage so that when I wipe back, I can wipe back a lot of that antique wax except for what's in the details. So now let me get this coated with a coat of the varnish. I'm just doing 1 coat of the varnish, and once it dries, I'm going in with that antique wax. And I'm mainly going over the details at the top, but once I get the details, once I get it on there, then I go back with a shop towel and I start wiping it back. Now for this, I really do play around a lot with clear wax, antique wax, clear wax, antique wax. If I start seeing it's getting too dark, I go over it with the clear wax, start wiping back, and then I just keep going back and forth until I get the finish I want. I definitely got that aged look that I was looking for, and I'm glad I got rid of the shininess. But this is how it turned out. I think it turned out really pretty, and the great thing about this is you can use it like this to hold your utensils, but it also makes a really pretty sort of vase to hold your fall florals. I just think this just looks so pretty. For this project, it is basically a sort of facelift project. This is something that I made for my vendor booth, and it just hasn't sold. So I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a facelift and see if that will help it move. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I am going to go over it again with a clear wax, the Waverly clear wax. Then I'm gonna give it a little bit of definition and just aging with some of the Waverly antique wax. This project is just gonna get a little bit of a facelift. And then to finish it off, I'm just gonna hot glue this little pine cone to the top right here on top of the bow and sort of in between the little eucalyptus, or not eucalyptus, but the little boxwood. And that's gonna finish this off. You'll have to let me know what you think. I do feel like even just a couple of little tweaks can make a big difference, so hopefully it'll sell quickly. But I do want to share a Bible verse with you, and it comes from Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek His will in all you do, and He will show you which path to take. I hope that encourages you today, and I hope that you enjoyed the video, and this is just a little peek of what that frame looked like after I changed out the middle part. But if you're new to my channel and you like this sort of content, I would love it if you would click that subscribe button and click the bell button. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up because it does help me out with YouTube. And don't forget to leave me a comment below. And if you want more videos like this, then check out the box you see on the screen right now, and I'll see you next time. Bye.